Thanks for joining me. We're at that point in the month where it's time to take a look at GPU prices. And so we're going to do a couple of things a little bit different, but I'll talk about that here in a minute. In the meantime, let's get into it. Okay, so here's the month of November, and so one of the things that we're going to be doing differently is thought it'd be useful to show which model has the best prices as I'm looking at the averages for current prices. And so I went ahead and put in a column for that, so when we talk about prices, we'll go through some of that stuff. The other thing is that this is near the middle of November. November 13th is the date of filming and me looking at these prices. And we're right around the corner from Black Friday, and the following Monday is Cyber Monday. So hopefully I'll be able to put together some stuff in time for the beginning of Black Friday and the beginning of Cyber Monday. I don't know, it just really depends on how my schedule goes, but I'm hoping that I'll be able to do that and get some more current prices out to you guys. All right, in the meantime, let's take a look here at these prices. So the 4090's price is slightly down from previous month, but still way over the top. And I don't think it's because of scarcity, as there seem to be plenty of models available for me to take a look at. And you know, some of those prices were way out of whack. I mean, like for instance, the worst case scenario was a ridiculous $4,500 for an Asus model, who's, you know, as you guys probably know, is one of my least favorite companies. So for the 4090, the lowest priced one is $1,800. That's by Gigabyte. And then on the 4080 Super, you got 1,002 is the average, $990 for PNY. Hopefully you guys will be able to read this stuff along with me. I had to make the text smaller in order to fit everything in. Anyways, 4070 Ti Super averages at $790, and that's up from the previous month. The 4080 Super, sorry about that, has gone down from the previous month, but it's still up from September and August. All right, so don't let that number fool you. All right, so 4070 Ti Super is at $7090, so it's slightly up, and it's kind of hovering around the same averages since July, so it hasn't really changed all that much since July. 4070 Ti is down a little bit at $726. It's at its lowest price for year to date, but not by much. I mean, the previous month was $732. I'm getting used to doing this particular column. So 4070 Ti Super, the lowest price I found was $780 by Gigabyte. Lowest price for the 4070 Ti that I found was $718 from MSI. And now we're at the 4070 Super. So 4070 Super is slightly up from previous month, but not at its all-time high by a long shot. Its all-time high was actually back in January when it first rolled out. So, you know, $593 isn't a great price, but it isn't a horrible price either. And the lowest price one I found was kind of a three-way tie at $590 between Gigabyte, MSI, and PNY. All right, and then you got the 4070. That's down by $23 from October at $517, and that one as well is the lowest price year to date for that model. And the lowest price one was at $499 from PNY. All right, and then the 4060 Ti 16 gig we got at $450, so it's up a little bit from previous month. And the lowest price one I found was $449 from MSI. And then the 4060 Ti 8 gig price is averaging at $391, so up a decent chunk from October. And the lowest price one I found was at $380 from PNY. The 4060 is averaging a little bit up from previous month at $297, and the lowest price one was at $295. It was a two-way tie between Zotac and PNY. And then we're going to look at the AMD GPUs. The 7900 XTX is at its lowest price year to date at $888. The lowest price one I found was at $840 from ASRock. 7900 XT is at $658, so up a little bit from October. The best price I found there was $640 from ASRock again. And then we've got the 7900 GRE, which is at $553, a little bit up from October. Best price one I found was from ASRock again at $530. 7800 XT is at $475, so it's back to its September pricing. And the best price I found for that one again from ASRock is at $470. 7700 XT is at $400, so up 15 bucks from October. Actually, it's at the highest point it's been since June, so that's not a good sign. All right, so $390 was the best price that I found from ASRock again, and it was a two-way tie between ASRock and XFX. The 7600 XT is at $324, so up a little bit, pretty close to its August price. And the best price one I found was at $315 for gigabyte. And the RX 7600 is at $258, so up a little bit from October as well. The best price one I found was for $250. It was a two-way tie from ASRock and XFX. And the 6800 is all out. It's gone. So the only thing left is the 6800 XT. And I didn't have the proper documentation from a history standpoint for the 6800 XT, and some of those prices are ridiculous anyways. So I'm just going to leave it sit. All right. If you guys want me to start tracking the 6800 XT, let me know down in the comments. All right, so 6750 XT is at $348. So still hovering around that middle range price for year to date. The lowest price one that I found though was at $300 from Power Color, so that's an interesting price point. 6650 XT is at $243, so it's repeating its September pricing. Lowest price one I found was for $235 from XFX, and the RX 6600 is at $210. So that's near its all-time high, by the way. 212 at the beginning of the year was its all-time high, so it's pretty close. And the best price one I found was a three-way tie at $200 from ASRock, Power Color, and Sapphire. All right. And for Intel, I don't even know why we're talking about Intel GPUs at this point, but you know, just to cover all bases. November price for A770 is the average price that I found was about 300 bucks. Best price one I found was 280 from ASRock, which, you know, that price is ridiculous. That's back to April pricing. So I don't know what the hell they're thinking there. A750 is average price at 227, so at its all-time high, which was in April as well, at 227. The lowest price one I found was at 200 from Sparkle. And then the A580, which is a ridiculously stupid GPU for most people to get unless you're on a tight budget and you want some performance. It's averaging at 173, and so slightly down from October. And the best price one was for 165 at ASRock. And I forgot to highlight a couple of items like the 6650 XT and the 770 and the 580, but I wanted you guys to know. So the 6750, that one I used an average of 3 models instead of my normal 4. Otherwise it would have skewed the numbers a bit, because the next model jumped from 320 to 434, and then the next model up jumped to 535, and then the next model up jumped up to 650 and up. So ridiculous price points going on right now. I don't know what the hell these guys are thinking. Maybe it's just skewed because there's some like scalpers that are still trying to sell off their inventory at high prices. I don't know, but these prices are ridiculous. Similarly with 6650 XT, I used an average of 2 models. Otherwise, the skew would have been way out of whack, since the next model up jumped from 250 to 460, and then the next model up from there jumped up to 539 and up. On the A770, I used an average of 3 models instead of 4. Otherwise, it would have skewed as well, because the next model up jumped from 320 to 400. And the A580 models, just like before, there's only 2 models available, so you know, kind of don't have a lot of choice on the averages or the models. And the reason for that is probably because nobody wants the A580, so nobody's making the A580. As a quick reminder, we're going to take a look at each of these columns, but don't take any individual column numbers as a gospel number for you to go by. You should be looking at these numbers in conjunction with each other and in conjunction with current prices versus past pricing. Otherwise, it can color your judgment. So don't take any of these column numbers, individual columns or individual numbers, as the gauge to go by on whether or not you should buy a particular GPU. All right, that being said, the 4090 is still having problems. Average percent change is 1.4% up over the course of the year. Its recent change, it went down by 1.6%, but it's still the only time it's been higher is the previous month. The rest of the year, the price was lower for the 4090. So yeah, don't see, that's another example of looking at that and thinking and using only that as your measurement. So don't do that. All right, and January versus November, this thing is up almost 15%, 4090. So that's ridiculous. And when you look at the cost per frames, it's insane. We'll get to that here in a second. All right, the 4080 Super, that one's, the average change is at 0. And its recent change, it came down by 3.5%, but that doesn't mean anything. It's been lower before. All right. And January versus November, it's at negative 0.5%. And then we got the 4070 Super. Average change is at minus 0.4%. Recent change is it went up by 1.5%, and which is disappointing because I'm kind of a fan of 4070 Super, and maybe if I remember to, when we get to cost per frames, we'll talk about that. But anyways, January versus November, it's at almost negative 5% at negative 4.8. The 4070 is down by 0.6% over the course of the year. The average percentage change is negative 0.6%. The recent percentage change, so the price change between October and November, is at negative 4.3, and versus January, it's down by 7%. 4060 Ti, 16 gig, average price going down by 0.3%. Month over month. Recent change, it went up by 1.8%, and January versus January, the November price is down 3.6%. 4060 Ti 8 gig is average price change of going down by 0.2%, but recent price change is up by 4.3%, and versus January, it's down only by 2.3%. 4060 is average price change month to month over the course of the year is it goes down by 0.3%, but its recent change, that price went up by 2.1% versus October, and versus January, it's down by almost 4%. 7900 XTX, negative 0.9% average change, negative 4.3 recent change, negative 10% versus January. 7900 XT, average change negative 0.6%, recent percent change versus October up 4.1%. You see all this red right here? All this red and all these oranges and reds. You see all that? Okay. These are indicative of the prices going up just before Black Friday. So that when they do the quote unquote discounts on Black Friday and Cyber Monday and things like that, it looks like a great price because of the recent prices. But if you look over time at previous prices, you'll see that the prices haven't changed that much. The prices that they'll sell it to you at is going to be acceptable to them because it's going to be within the range of the prices they've had before. So, you know, and that's what I think is happening. So we'll see on Black Friday and Cyber Monday if I'm right. Anyways, so where was I? 7900 XT? Up 4.1%, down by 7.3% versus January. 7900 GRE, zero change as far as average goes. Recent percentage change is at 2.8% up from October, and 0% change January versus numbers. 7800 XT is at negative 0.6% average change. Recent change is up 4.9%. Versus January, it's down 6.9%. 7700 XT is average price changes at negative 0.9%, up from previous month almost 4%. It's down 9.7% versus January. 7600 XT, average price change month over month for the year is at negative 0.4%, but the price went up versus October at 3.5%. Versus January, it's down 4.1%. 7600 is negative 0.4% average change. It is up from previous month by 2.8%. It is down versus January at 4.4%. 6750 XT, average on average it goes down by negative 0.9%. It's gone down 1.7% from previous month, and it is down 10.8% versus its January price. 6650 average price change is at negative 0.3%. Recent percentage change from October, it's up 3.4%. It's down 6.5% versus January. 6600, zero change. Recent change from October is up 5% and down 1% versus January. A770, 0% change, average change over the year. It went up in price by 8.3%, and January versus November, it is down 2.3%. And right across the board for A750, it has gone on average up by 0.5% month over month. It has gone up from October by 16.4%. And it has gone up from its January price by 3.2%. So the A750 model, stay away from that. The A580 model you should stay away from for obvious reasons that I've spoken on ad nauseum, so I'm not going to repeat myself on that. But zero change on average for the A580. It is down from the previous month by 2.8% and is down by 1.1%. Versus January. All right, here we go at cost per frame. So in general, like I did last time, what I'm going to tell you is you're going to want to pay attention to the greens and yellows. The oranges and reds means stay away from that or be very careful about your purchase. So yellow is acceptable and green is good, right? And that's based off of this chart down here. Feel free to take a look at that while I'm going through this stuff. If you remember from October's stuff, the cost per frame for most everything has gone up, right? I mean, look at the cost per frame for the 4090 at 4K. It costs you $17.22 per frame to use the 4090 at 4K. It's freaking ridiculous. And I think I said I wanted to talk about the 4070 Super. So originally, if I recall correctly, the cost per frame on the 4070 Super, it was beating the 4070 Ti in cost per frame. It looks like it still is. And I think it was also beating the 4070 cost per frame. But since the price has recently slightly gone up, it's edged itself out. But it does beat the 4070 Ti Super in cost per frame. And so, yeah, the 4070 Super is, you know, if that price was a little bit less, I'd say about like $550 or so. I think that's the sweet spot for 4070 Super, $550 to $525, somewhere around there. You'll see that if you go back to the October video I did, you'll see that there's more yellows, oranges, and reds than there was last time. And that's because the prices on average have gone up. The one of the exceptions to this is the 7900 XTX. That went from orange to yellow, which is a good direction. But at the same time, the 7900 XTX, that's, if you're playing the 7900 XTX at 1080p, there's nothing wrong with that, I guess. Especially if that's the only kind of monitor that you've got and you've got the 7900 XTX and you want to play some games. I get it. But, you know, that GPU was made for 1440p and 4K gaming. So looking at this going from orange to yellow, although it's interesting, I don't know that it's pertinent. I don't know that it's relational to most people that own the 7900 XTX. And again, just like I've said many times before, if you don't agree with the tiers that I created for this, then don't pay attention to the colors and stuff. Just look at the straight numbers for yourself so that you understand what that cost per frame for that GPU at that at the ultra settings for 1080p, 1440p, 4K, whatever you're playing on, so that you have a finer understanding of what you're dealing with, right? Okay, so yeah, that's pretty much everything I wanted to go over. If you guys want me to get into the weeds on the cost per frame on these in future videos, let me know down in the comments, and I'd be more than happy to take a deeper dive into this stuff. But for the most part, the numbers pretty much speak for themselves, right? And if you use the colors to determine what tier each of these are, or just the straight numbers, if you have a cost per frame in mind that you want to utilize, then at least you'll have an idea of where you're at. And like I said, I'm gonna try to put together a video with similar data for Black Friday prices and Cyber Monday prices. So there might be an extra set of videos that I'm uploading for those weeks. Instead of my normal one a week, it might go to 2 a week or something like that. Depends on how my schedule goes and how the holidays are and all that stuff and how busy things get for me. But I'll do everything I can to see if I can put that stuff together for you guys so that you have an idea. And I'll try to roll that out as early as I can on Black Friday and on Cyber Monday so that you can hopefully use that data to figure out whether or not you want to go out and buy a GPU on one of those days if the right price is out there for you. Anyways, thanks for joining me. If you got any questions or comments or suggestions, please write them down in the comments. All right, thanks.